First of all, why am I speaking about exports? I'm originally from Russia, as you can guess from my accent, and I came here to UAE as a student 19 years ago. For 15 years or more, I worked for the US Department of Commerce or World Trade Center here. So for the last 15 years, if there was something going on internationally, probably I was involved in some way or I heard about it, you know. So if somebody tells you there was this great export in 2007 and you don't believe those people, you know, you can ask me. I might be able to confirm if there was or there wasn't. But Kai gave me the title of the presentation, which says, what does the rest of the world want from us? I think it's a very self-serving question. I think exports require two parties. It's sort of like a prom dance in high school. So to me, the better question would be, how does the rest of the world sees us? Like when they look at us, what do they see? Is it down? Yeah. Okay. So international trade is a big business for Alaska. If you have seen the World Trade Center presentations, I copied a few slides, you know. I mean, it's fair to say that I actually made those slides myself. So overseas exports were 4.7 billion in 2018. That's approximately 10% of our gross state product, which is a significant amount if you think about it. Exports is new money into the economy, thousands of direct and indirect jobs, result in stronger and more diversified economy. Oops, okay. Alaska ranks 40th of all the states by the value of exports, but by the percent of gross state product, Alaska ranks 14th. And on a per capita basis, Alaska ranks 4th. So we are actually very, very, very influenced by exports, if you think about it. We're just very small. That's why we're on the 40th place. According to the US Department of Commerce, there's approximately 300 companies exporting, but that's statistics, and I cannot say whether that's true or not. However, 75 are small and medium-sized businesses. Small and medium-sized businesses in the US general picture are companies that are less than 500 people. So I think the majority of Alaskan companies are less than 500 people. Exports equals jobs. So there's, again, some statistics, you know, with statistics, you just have to believe that that's true, right? Here is Alaska's export picture. Since '94, basically, exports almost doubled. You know, the peak was in 2011. You can see two dips, one in 1998, one in 2008. Probably 2008, you remember why it was, there was a dip, right? There was the Great Recession, right? How about 1998? What was that? It was the Asian economic crisis. And that was when there was the problem with Thailand currency. Then there was a problem with Korea because of that. And then Korea at that point of time was Alaska's second largest export partner. So this is just to show how we are depending on the world. So let's look at our main export partners. Oops. As you can see, they're in Asia, they're in the Pacific Rim. Canada, I consider Canada to be a part of the Pacific Rim too. So China is number one, South Korea right now is number two, Japan is number three. There are some European countries too, but compared to China, South Korea, Japan, and Canada, they're less significant. Okay, what do we export to the world? Many people think we export oil, we don't. Energy products over there mainly is the airport refueling that we do for you know, airplanes that come to Anchorage. Main export is seafood. Let's look at China. Look how China grew. I was happy, I mean, I was lucky to start at the World Trade Center in 2004. At that point of time, nobody thought China would be anything significant. Many people here thought that China is a communist country and nothing can happen with China, but right now China is our main partner. This is what we sell to China. If you need this presentation, I put the list of what we have with China, what are the involvements with China. Surprisingly, there is not too much. You know, they buy a whole bunch of stuff, but the Chinese presence here is very, very limited. These are the second two, South Korea and Japan. I just jam them together. Japan used to be the biggest economic partner of Alaska for decades. And so Japan significantly went down. Japan was number one from like 1950s until 2005, 6. Some Korean involvement in Alaska, some Japanese involvement in Alaska. As you can see, I'm leading you to something in the end that I want to talk about. Okay, so first of all is the optimism. Why we can say that exports will grow. My former colleague Greg Wolf, my good friend, he said that we have the 4 rights. And that phrase, sort of many people are using it right now, and even like I heard the Senator Lisa Murkowski is using that phrase, you know, so it sort of became common thing to talk about Alaska. So we have a place, time, commodities, direction. The place is right there in the middle of the world, right? What the airport says, 9 hours from the 80% of the industrialized world. Okay, we have what the world needs. We have the resources. We have those rounds, right? That Kai was talking about. We have fast-growing economies and population in our backyard. That's true. You know, don't forget about India, don't forget about Southeast Asia. I wrote quite a few articles on that. They're insignificant right now, but they might be bigger and better. And then, of course, the Arctic. That presents significant opportunities for us. We have a lot of resources untapped. This is from the Commonwealth North. And you know, when the new person comes to Alaska, when they hear about our coal, for example, they think we have lots of coal mines. How many coal mines do we have? 1. Okay. Copper, 3rd most copper in the world if we would be our own country. Lead, gold, zinc, silver, all that kind of stuff. North Slope natural gas, rare earth elements, that's another, that was actually a more attractive word, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. Remember everybody was talking about rare earth? Okay, and then the last point here is that we have more companies looking outside the bun, so to say, and they're looking at 3 billion customers versus 700,000 customers in Alaska. That's, to me, an important thing, because if we have a company that produces, let's say, I don't know, these things, which we don't have a company that produces those, but if they do, they can sell how many? Will it be enough for them to sell to every Alaskan, you know, man, woman, and a child? You know, will it be enough to do business? No, probably not. Let's look at this. This is my grain of salt. We always come to foreign countries, to foreign customers. Oops, they say stop. Okay, just 30 more seconds, maybe a minute. Okay, we always brag about political stability. Are we politically stable or are we politically not stable? That's a big question. You know, we always brag about it. We always say like, well, you don't want, you know, this is coming from the Russian guy, right? You don't want to deal with the Russians, right? Well, do we have that stability that we brag about? Is there a curse of being in the middle, just like Reykjavik had, where all the airplanes were landing in Reykjavik, and then all of a sudden they stopped doing that because, you know, the bigger and better airplanes appeared, right? We are rediscovering Reykjavik, but I think my grandfather had an old radio set which had like Reykjavik, you know, on it, on one of the waves. And I was always wondering, what is Reykjavik, you know? Where is it? And then we have 3 bad lucks. This is not as good as 4 rights, but infrastructure, human resources, and industrial capacity, we don't have those 3. Another thing to think about maybe at the discussion, diversification versus hyper-concentration. I'm not going to talk what is hyper-concentration, but you probably understand. Global competitiveness. Are we competitive on the global scale? Lynn's company is. Do we have many of those? Global competence. Are we competent? And then back to the question that I started with. How are we being perceived by the world? And what is our own perception of ourselves? Do we look great to ourselves only? Or do everyone else think that we are great? Let's, you know, this is the end of my presentation, but after we're done with the presentation in this section and we go to discussion, you know, let's talk about it. Thank you.